Thank you for watching CTR TV. We're talking today about some important updates to forms that many agents may be using when they are selling a home. And to explain the changes and the importance is CTR President Dan Keune. So these forms have to do with a concrete advisory disclosure for buyers and sellers.
Correct.
Why did we make updates?
The reason we made updates is the indemnity company, which is the insurance company that has been set up with the assistance from the state of Connecticut, placed some criteria for applications, and the criteria directly affected how we do a transaction. When I say it directly affected, one of their criteria now is if the buyer is aware that the property was built after 1983 or any part of that property thereafter, then they are required to either have a core sample or an engineering inspection as part of the purchase. And if they choose not to, if sometime down the future, if their foundation ends up with an issue, they will lose their right to make a claim with the indemnity company. So frankly, if somebody ends up with a massive foundation failure and nobody advised them that they should have had it looked at professionally during the purchase, they're going to be sitting out there with no protection. So that's not a healthy situation for anybody in the transaction. So with that, we needed to make some changes. The first change would be the fact that just because the assessor's card says the house was built in 1981, well, that's fine. But the garage may have been added in 1985, the family room added in 1987. We need to source that data.
And that's what the first change states. It asks you for the year built and any knowledge of structural additions or outbuildings and the years those were built as well.
Correct. And the next change that was made to that same form references the fact that they're aware that there's an indemnity company, that the indemnity company does have application requirements that directly affect that issue. I mean, you need to have an engineering inspection or a core sample. It has to be a Connecticut licensed engineer, and again, done as part of your purchase. It can't be something where you closed February 1st and decided to do one in March. No, as part of your purchase, it has to be done.
And the changes, the requirements put in place by the indemnity company apply to any property purchased on or after February 1st.
Correct.
So agents need to be using these forms now.
Right away.
And may have to go back and refill out some of these forms.
You may want to really look at this depending on your office policy. And this is something where all of these forms are technically voluntary. The association can't mandate. On the other hand, if we don't provide guidance as to how to best protect our clients and our industry, then we probably aren't doing our job fully, and that's what these are for, protecting both.
The other form that was updated was the foundation advisory for buyers.
Correct.
That was pretty much adding some language to make people aware.
Right, and again, it references the February 1st date and the same issue regarding a concrete core sample or an engineering report. This has got a great benefit, and I can tell you a lot of the agencies that are using it are doing it during the first time buyer counsel session. When you meet with your buyer up front, you're getting them to sign the buyer broker agreement, you're giving them an overview of what's going on for the entire transaction. It's a great time to bring it up. Have the conversation early so they're already aware of this subject. There is a cost to having an engineer look at this. If you're having an engineer visual inspection, the cost range could be $400 to $650. I mean, that's a big range, but it depends on your engineer. And with an additional expense like that, the buyer should be aware of it in the beginning anyway. So a lot of us are using this right up front with the buyer, early in the transaction, well before contract. Educate the buyer, helps the rest of the transaction go smoother.
The forms are all available online.
Yes, they are.
Agents need to be sure they're using the updated versions.
Absolutely.
What is the risk, or why is it important to make sure you have this form with these statements in it?
The concern is that if you don't use these forms and your buyer purchases without knowing what's being told in these forms, again, some point down the road finds out they have a problem, they won't have anybody to help them. The indemnity company won't be able to touch them. They'll really be on their own. And frankly, that's a terrible position to put our clients in. This is really about protecting the clients and protecting the communities.
Again, the forms are online. You can find links at ctrealtors.com. If you have questions about concrete crumbling foundations specifically, crumblingfoundations.org is the website for the indemnity company.